Ian, thank you very much for joining Energy Live News. It is a common truth that COVID-19 has changed our daily lives rapidly, causing massive disruptions and disruptions that probably may seem really necessary in order to limit the spread of this virus. I just want to start and ask you how this virus and how this coronavirus pandemic has affected your work as an association for energy assessors, Green Deal advisors, residential property surveyors.
Okay, well, essentially it's affecting us in two ways. First of all is obviously there is a drop-off in demand for our service, which will impact on income just through the natural way of things. But what has happened is there is still some demand for the service. And in order to fulfill it, we have to visit properties, go around those buildings, visit all rooms in the building. And in the process of doing that, we are exposed to a significant risk of catching the virus. And obviously, there's also a significant risk of an energy assessor or a surveyor passing on the virus to somebody else when we're in that scenario. There are limited opportunities in some cases to actually stick rigidly to the social distancing rules. If you're trying to survey a property where there is somebody in it and you need to pass each other in a room or a corridor, it's seldom possible to stay 2 meters away at all times doing that.
Mm-hmm. So in order to understand, in order to make it easier for our viewers to understand, the energy surveyors and the energy assessors are included in the key workers category that the government announced that is still essential to go to work during this period? No,
we're not included as key workers.
Okay.
So if you take the one interpretation of the guidance, then we do not have the need to go to work, but the government keep insisting that work shouldn't stop even if it's non-essential work, and they're classing travel to non-essential work as essential travel, and it is that anomaly which is causing us the problem. So it's been a case of, we believe that we should not be doing these surveys, but the government keep telling us that it should be business as normal for people they haven't told to stop, and that includes us.
Yeah, because I can understand that EPCs are essential to the objectives of reducing the energy waste and addressing climate change issues and things like that. But during this period, it's high risk, it's highly risky for your workers, for your members as an association, to let them go to their work, right?
Yes, well, if you look at a similar scenario, you've got the same situation where an MOT is critical to ensuring that vehicles on the road are safe, but the government has recognised that for this period where we are in crisis, it is not sensible to force people to go and get an MOT on their vehicle, so they've deferred the requirement. And what we're saying is it is not critical in the peak of this crisis to get an EPC, and there is no reason why the government cannot defer the requirement for it to be picked up once things get somewhere closer to normal.
Mm-hmm. So as an association, what measures have you taken, or what kind of things have you told to your members in order to go to their work, in order to protect themselves?
We're advising our members that at the moment we don't consider EPCs to be an essential. Therefore, in the majority of cases, they should not be going out and doing surveys, exposing them to risk and exposing their clients to risk. In exceptional circumstances, if there is an urgent need for an EPC, and we would question whether there are many of those at all, then obviously they do need to practice social distancing. It's safer for our members to be assessing an empty building If there are people in the building, then they can be asking them to not be in the building for the period of the survey. But even with that, we understand that the virus can survive for a period of time on various surfaces. So we're going to have to open doors. We're going to have to look in cupboards for hot water cylinders. So we can't completely avoid any form of contact, even in an empty building. And we can't expect people to move out for 72 hours before we go in to make sure there's no virus. So there is always that level of risk. We can do our best to mitigate it, but we can't eliminate it other than by not doing a survey.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest challenge for energy assessors during this period and in following weeks, in the following months? Actually, because it is an escalating thing, right?
One of the biggest challenges is going to be assessing the risk. There's a threat to us at the moment in that potentially somebody who is self-isolating could pick that as a suitable time to get their EPC done because they're at home and they got nothing better to do. In which case, they're inviting an energy assessor into a potentially dangerous situation. And we really have no way of knowing that that's what we're being pulled into. As we move forward, you're going to have a scenario where if things start to get back to normal and we can start doing the assessments again without being as concerned about the risk, the first assessors back to work should be the ones who have had the virus and therefore have a level of immunity. And we can be more comfortable going into scenarios where we know that nobody in the building has the virus. And a lot of that is going to hinge around testing.